Things about Canada that confuse the heck out of Americans. Americans think when things get rough in the US, that they can just move here. No, it doesn't work like that. We have our own immigration system. You have to apply for a permit first. I'm sorry, Americans, you just can't move here. Americans be like, why do they speak French in Canada? Is France close? Bruh. Canada has 2 official languages, English and French. A Canadian woman told an American at a cashier that it's weird that their money all looks the same. So the American was like, well, it's weird that your money looks like Monopoly money, but okay. Oh my god, Americans. At least with Canadian money, we know which bill is which based on the color. It's plastic, therefore it's waterproof, and it's not some off-green shade like yours. Americans just think that poutine is weird, period. It's just fries. And cheese curds. And gravy. Y'all eat cheese fries all the time.
In Canada, if somebody says thank you to you, do not say you're welcome to them. They will get offended. If somebody says thank you to you in Canada, give them a hug. If you don't feel comfortable hugging a stranger, you can say thank you back to them, but if you do this, you risk getting caught in a thank you loop. A thank you loop is just 2 people continuously thanking each other over and over and over again until the police come and break it up. If you're on the street and you see 2 people stuck in a thank you loop, call 911. Don't try and be a hero and hug them. If you do that, they're gonna thank you for the hugs, and then you're gonna get caught in the thank you loop. Don't do it. I hope this doesn't scare you from visiting our country. It's a lot safer than you think. Thank you.
This is how I know Canada is not a real place, okay? I was just in my building elevator. It was a full elevator. We're just riding down, and I have a backpack on, and I'm trying to put on the second strap, and I'm like reaching for it with my arm down, and this woman behind me takes my backpack and moves it closer to my arm and says, go ahead. This country is not a real place, I'm telling you. Where else do you find people this nice for no reason?
The only Canadian culture that Americans are exposed to comes from Ontario and Quebec want to be referred to as Central Canada. That's not what we call it on the West Coast, okay? We say back east. If you are from anywhere east of Manitoba, you're not in Central Canada, you're not in Eastern Canada, you're not in the Maritimes, you're just back east. That's what we say. And I'm sure people disagree with me.
You know that Canada has one of the most shocking capital city names that I've ever heard? Regina. That's right. It's the city that rhymes with fun. I know it to be true because I took one of my American friends there to experience Regina. There's even a thing. I, being Canadian, didn't even know half the things that happened there. Did you know they have the world's best beer? Or that they're famous for deep dish pizza that's sort of Chicago style? We tasted it. You know what else is big in Regina? Pickles.
The thing that Americans don't understand about Canada is like we have our own things.
Yeah.
And we have our own TV shows. Mm-hmm. And especially we have our own music. Imagine, if you will, you're in Toronto, you're in Montreal, and you go to a pre. They're playing songs. And like a song from like 2012 comes on that everybody in the room knows and you've never heard.
So I'm in Canada for the first time. I'm specifically in Victoria right now, which is in British Columbia. And I'm having the biggest culture shock, not just the way like people talk to the fact that like a lot of things are, you know, they have translations in French and stuff like that. But the fact that I know so little about like how everything is run, which makes sense because it's like being from like the US and stuff. But dude, so I landed in Vancouver, took a ferry out to Victoria Island, where Victoria is the capital of the province of BC, British Columbia. I'm so ignorant about it, but it's been fun so far. And apparently it's never really this sunny in Victoria. But a lot of people are saying it's not only a treat for us, but it's a treat for the locals.
Something that shocks me is how little people actually know about Canada. And I feel equipped to talk about this because I was born in the US and I moved to Canada. So I have both citizenships. And growing up in the US and then moving to Canada, in my head, I was like, Canada and the US are basically one and the same on the global stage. And as I've grown up and met people from Europe, Africa, Asia, even more people from the US, I'm floored at how little people actually know. Like the jokes about riding a polar bear to work are funny, but I think some people truly believe that, or that it's winter all the time, or that we eat maple syrup with every meal. Like I'm telling people that I live near Toronto, just because it's easier and Toronto's the only thing that people know, probably because of Drake. I'm from Calgary.
Okay, one of the things I notice most about like the differences between Canadian and American culture is shoes. In Canada, if you go to someone's house, you take your shoes off. Even if you're like going in and out of like their patio, you know, like you're going in and out of the backyard, you're in, you're out, you're barbecuing, whatever, shoes come off when you go in the house. Whereas in the US, shoes are on, baby. All the time. Inside, outside, it's so weird to me. It's so weird. I got to this like swanky house here in Tahoe, and the first thing I did when I was like getting the tour from like the rental property manager was like take my shoes off, and she was like, "You can leave those on," and I was like, "I don't, I can't." My Canadian ancestors are rolling over in their grave.
I'm an American living in Canada, and here are some differences that I've noticed since moving here 2 years ago. Temperature is measured in Celsius. Distance is measured in kilometers, and when driving, kilometers per hour. Plastic grocery bags are not a thing here, and you always bag your own groceries at the grocery store. The letter Z is referred to as Z. The American national anthem is played at sporting events. Milk is sold in a bag. Gas is sold by the liter. People actually return their shopping carts to the designated shopping cart return. Diversity is celebrated, and universal health care is a thing.
There are some things that, like, since I've been in Canada, I notice, and just as an American, I find it so funny. So, first thing, which I already established in France, is Smarties are not Smarties. Here, they're called Rockets. Like, the whole packaging says Rockets, but they're literally Smarties. Second thing is Kraft mac and cheese is not called Kraft mac and cheese. It's called Kraft dinner. So on the mac and cheese box, it says KD. But it's the same thing. I just think that's so funny.
Honestly, realising politeness and warmth aren't the same thing. Everybody told me before I moved to Canada that Canadians are very nice people. I would say they're more polite. I feel like Australians generally, we tend to be a little bit more warm and welcoming when we first meet people. Whereas Canadians, I feel like you can take a little bit more time to do that.
Family, when many Americans first think about Canada, they often imagine a colder version of the United States, a country with similar language, similar entertainment, and even similar lifestyles. But when they actually spend their time there, many discover something unexpected. And so Canada may share a border with America, but Canadian culture has developed its own personality. Now, one of the first things many Americans notice is the difference in everyday interactions. And so Canadians are often known for their politeness, but visitors quickly realize that it goes beyond simply saying sorry or please. And there is a strong cultural emphasis on being considerate of others, respecting personal space, and even maintaining a calm and friendly atmosphere. And so many Americans are surprised by how normal it is for strangers to acknowledge each other, help each other, and even avoid unnecessary confrontation in daily life. And now, another cultural difference that catches people off guard is Canada's incredible diversity. Many people outside the country picture Canada as mostly forests, snow, and even small towns, but major Canadian cities have become some of the most multicultural places in the world. Walking through cities like Toronto or Vancouver, people can experience communities from across the globe with restaurants, with festivals, with languages, and even traditions representing hundreds of cultures. Now, some Americans are shocked to discover that Canadian identity is not built around one single culture, but around many cultures existing together. Food is another area where Americans often discover a completely different side of Canada. Many people know about Canadian classics like maple syrups, like poutine, but they are surprised by how diverse Canadian cuisine has become. Canadian cities offer everything from Caribbean to Indian cuisine, Asian markets, Middle East restaurants, European bakeries, and even indigenous Canadian dishes. And so for many visitors, Canada becomes a place where the world's cultures meet through food. And one of the biggest surprises for Americans is also the Canadian relationship with nature and outdoor life. And so in many parts of Canada, nature is not just something people visit occasionally, it is part of everyday life. And so Canadians often embrace activities like hiking, like camping, like skiing, skating, and even spending time outdoors despite the weather. And so many Americans are amazed that people can turn freezing temperatures into opportunities for festivals, for sports, and even community events. And so another thing that surprises many visitors in Canada's national celebrations and traditions is that Canada has its own identity. It has its own symbols and even history that separate from American culture. And so events like Canada Day, Indigenous cultural celebrations, winter festivals, and local traditions showcase a country that has created its own story. And so many Americans who visit realize that Canada is not simply America but colder. It is a nation with a unique character. And so the way Canadians approach community and public spaces also stands out. And so many visitors notice that the emphasis placed on shared spaces, public parks, libraries, community programs, and so there is often a strong sense that certain resources belong to everyone and should be maintained for future generations. And so this creates a different feeling in many communities that visitors immediately recognize. And so, of course, Canada is not perfect and every country has its challenges, but the cultural differences are what make the country fascinating, because the biggest surprise for many Americans is realizing that two countries can share the longest international border in the world, speak the same main language, and even still develop very different social identities. And so Canada's culture is a blend of history, a blend of immigration, traditions, and values that continue to evolve. And so for many Americans, the discovery is not that Canada is better or worse, it is that Canada is simply different, and sometimes the biggest surprises come from places we think we already understand.